Hello and welcome to the FilmPulse.net podcast. This is episode number 95. My name is Adam. With me today we have Kevin. How are you, Kevin?
Crestfallen.
Crestfallen? Today we'll be kicking things off with an interview with Adrián García Bogliano and talk about his upcoming film, Here Comes the Devil. Then we'll be going over some of what we've been watching before jumping into a feature review of Spike Lee's Oldboy. And finally we'll be going over this week's movie predictions, new on video on demand and DVD and Blu-ray releases. Before we get into the interview, thought that we should mention the passing of Paul Walker and just briefly talk about that. Now, there's a couple things I want to say. First, we give Paul Walker, we gave him some shit over the years on the show, I think. But
yeah, he's pretty much Ryan's nemesis.
But I think it's still, it was still sad, and I didn't hate him as an actor or anything like that, but I really am kind of disgusted, and I'm not surprised, I guess, with just, like, the whole, Twitter, everybody on Twitter saying, like, how ironic he does.
I was going to say, how many...
It's not ironic.
How many
it's
terrible Fast and Furious jokes were there on the Twitter?
It's horrible. It's distasteful, and it's not irony. When someone dies in a car accident and they were in movies about car racing, that's not irony. And furthermore, he wasn't even driving the car. He was the passenger. So
that's unfortunate.
But I am it
that's
does
sad.
make me sad.
I was surprised that he's 40. I didn't know he was 40.
I know, he looked really good for 40. I was surprised. He has like a 15-year-old kid too.
Jeez. Yeah, that's sad.
And the other thing is, now everybody's like, well, what's going to happen with Fast and Furious 7? What's going to happen? Like, who gives a fuck? A guy's dead, for God's sake. Just, let's...
And you know what's going to... It's Hollywood. They're just going to replace him.
Yeah, exactly.
Or they'll write his character off.
Yeah, I'm sure that they'll kill him off in the movie, probably.
Yeah, it's not like Hollywood hasn't dealt with this before.
Yeah. So, at any rate, I think that it is terrible. I think that he was better than the movies that he was in, honestly. I just talked about him with that Hours movie, and I said that he didn't do a bad job, so...
Yeah, it just seemed like, for him, most of his acting career was Fast and Furious, like, took up all of his time.
Yeah, I know, and I
happened to be in all of them.
Yeah, I wish that he had the opportunity to try out some different things. I think he might have been a little bit more well respected as an actor if he was able to devote some time to other stuff.
But at the same time, like, I don't know what kind of checks he was getting from Fast and the Furious, but if you're getting well paid for those movies, I'd be doing it too. You know what I mean? Like, you drive around in sweet ass cars.
Well, that's the other thing. Like, it's a safe bet. Like, why would you ever say, all right, I'm done with this, when there's the uncertainty of, okay, you have a guaranteed paycheck, probably a huge paycheck with that series, or do something else and you're not even sure what it could be. So, Paul Walker, rest in peace. All right, let's have a chat with director Adrián García Bogliano and talk about his upcoming film, Here Comes the Devil. First off, thank you so much for taking some time to talk with me. Let's start things off by maybe telling the listeners a little bit about what transpires in Here Comes the Devil.
Well, that movie is it's something that I wanted to make for many years. It's a movie that has like two different levels of interpretation, let's say. It can be, on one hand, just a horror story, and on the other hand, it can be also a film about sexual repression and taboos. That's something that I wanted to do, to make a film that could work in both levels, just as this horror story of a couple that loses their children for one night, and next day they find them, and something appears to have changed in the children. And on the other hand, it's actually a film about about secrets, about sexual repression, about things that we don't like to show to the rest of the people, and about a secret that it's being discovered through the movie.
Now, the sexual themes in the film are they're very strong sexual themes, and a lot of the themes involve young kids. Were there any concerns when making the film about taking things too far, dealing with ratings boards, having to cut certain things? So this was an issue for you?
It was an issue, but no, I never thought I was going to show any more than what I did. I had a kind of a hard time explaining that to the producers. That was the only concern they had, of course. And they at one point I had to be very clear and said, this is not going to be anything like a Serbian film or something like that. That's not what I intended. I've made a few, a couple of films that had really gory, disturbing elements all over the movie. This one has like one or two things like that, but it's not about the gore or anything like that. And I wanted to be very clear about that subject. I'm very respectful, and I'm very kind of shy with my actors and with the things my actors have to do. So I would never have think, even if it was even if it was legal or anything, I would have never think of doing something that could be disturbing or too extreme for the child actors. They had a lot of fun doing the movie, and all the film was made. They only had like not even the pages that they had to shoot, but just the lines of action that they had to do. Because some of the other elements on those same pages of the script contain more explicit elements. So they just had like lines, and what I would tell them is like, you have to look that way, like very serious and stuff like that. They were completely separate through the entire process of shooting film, of what was really going on. Their parents were there all the time. We tried to be as careful as possible, and and I think they had a lot of fun. They had a lot of fun with the makeups and stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, speaking of the makeup, now, like you said, this isn't like a non-stop gore fest. This is like a more subdued horror film, but there are spurts of some pretty extreme violence. And I don't know how much, if any, CG you used in the film, because I really couldn't tell, because all the gore effects looked really good. And I always like to ask horror directors when I talk to them, how do you feel about practical effects versus CG in films?
Well, I think that most people of my age love practical effects. I think that there is just a problem of budget sometimes. You can do some of that stuff live because you don't have enough time to do it. Practical effects require a lot of time. We had these the goriest scene of the movie was actually supposed to be like 2 pages longer. It was going to be a lot more violent and a lot more disturbing, but when we got to by the time we got to shoot it, we already cut some stuff out because we realized that we were not going to have time to do all those effects. But by the time that we were, that we shot all the previous dialogue, that it's before the gore part, we realized that we were not going to even have time to shoot all the gore that we had. So we started to cut things out, and we just made it in a way very, very simple and very specific. And I think it works, but it's one of those things where you realize that practical effects require a lot of time. I just shot another movie that it's actually a werewolf movie, and the decision was, to make all the werewolves on CG I'm sorry, on practical effects, no CG at all. And we had the luck to have Bob Kurtzman to make the special effects, and he's absolutely awesome, and he's one of the greatest professionals in America, and yet the time, it was super time consuming,
right,
to try to achieve that. So it's easy to understand why people is going more and more to the CG, because a few years ago it was easy to have like kind of a small horror film of $5-10 million. Now it's impossible to have those kind of budgets. Horror directors are working with more and more restraints in terms of budget, and you have to solve it any way you can with your budget.
Yeah. So the film kind of harkens back to a more 70s style of horror. What were some of the films that influenced you and you maybe thought about when you were working on this film?
I always have like thousands of horror films of the 70s and 80s on my brain when I'm working. A lot of people saw the name of Lucio, the one of the characters of the film, as a reference to Lucio Fulci. It wasn't actually the idea, but Lucio Fulci's films, of course, are always around there
Right.
on the creative process. But I think that the film that I always said that it was like the seed for this movie was Picnic at Hanging Rock, the film of Peter Weir. I love that film. I mean, even if it's not that clearly a horror film, it was a film that provoked me a very intense feeling when I saw it for the first time when I was a kid. It was a very disturbing film.
Yeah.
And I think that also there's not 70s, but there's an 80s adaptation of one book that inspired me a lot. Of course, that it's The Turn of the Screw of Henry James. There is an adaptation of the 80s, Spanish adaptation, directed by a filmmaker that already died, Eloy de la Iglesia, which is a very obscure and wonderful director, a Spanish director that made films through the 70s and 80s. And this was his only, this and Cannibal Men, that it's a bit more famous, were his only entries on horror. And it's really disturbing and very sexual. And I thought it was really interesting. So I think those were the basic references, but through the style of filmmaking and things like that, I always look to people like Nicolas Roeg. A film like Don't Look Now is obviously another reference, and Brian De Palma also, of course.
Oh, okay.
And we were very lucky because we had that was initially the style that I wanted for the movie, but we were very lucky that we shot with a great camera, with a red one, but at the same time we had all these lenses and all these camera filters from the 70s that were really from that age, like
Wow.
the zoom and all there is this scene that it's kind of how do you say that, like a dream sequence that with the babysitter,
Yeah.
all those effects that you see with the splitting images and the kaleidoscope, I think it's called that way. All those images are actually made on camera with filters of the 70s that people don't use anymore, and I don't know why, because they're really wonderful for some to create some effects, and those were the type of effects that Brian De Palma used a lot on the final sequence of Carrie. And we found those, and we just use them and had a great time using them again.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you mentioned that, because my next question was, I did notice throughout the film you used some quick zooming techniques at different times, and this is something that I love when I see it in films, but it's so rare in films these days to see that, like, quick zoom in.
Yeah.
And was this, when you decided to do it that way, was that kind of another nod to 70s style horror, like you said with De Palma, or
yeah, sure. I'm sorry. Yeah, it was kind of a nod in a way, but I didn't want to. I mean, there's something that I really like. I'm really proud of the movie, that it's there is a very 70s feel to it, but at the same time, the treatment of the image or any other things, it doesn't look, grindhouse, or
exactly.
it's not that, it doesn't have a lot of winks to the audience, like, hey, here's the 70s thing. The zooms were, the most difficult part. I actually was very surprised when I showed the movie to the producers. They were like super supportive with the whole process and the whole movie, and they never actually asked me to take anything of the movie. But I was surprised, because I was expecting them to be, a bit, maybe that they wouldn't like, all the sex elements of the film or something like that. And the only thing that they actually told me is that they didn't like the zooms. Like, the rest was fine for them. That was like, okay, you can, it's your movie, do whatever you want, but we hate that. It was like, and ever since then, I found a lot of people that don't get it at all, and a lot of people that actually thinks that that's, because, I'm an amateur director, and I don't know what a dolly is, and I just zoomed, and it was totally conscious, of course. It's not only a nod, but it's also a conceptual thing. It's like every time that kind of thing happens in the movie is because something is dragging the attention of the characters into a certain direction. And at the end of the movie, you have a montage of all those zooms. And it's more, to me, it was more like, okay, all these things that apparently were random were dragging these characters to this tragic finale, to this tragic conclusion. Like they were actually brought to this place to do what they do at the end of the movie.
Right.
So that was actually the idea behind it. But I love those zooms, and we actually, the zoom that we used was a zoom of the 70s that actually don't have any kind of electronic pull or something. So it was all handmade by the photographer. That's why it's what you see, that it might have some pause in the middle, like it's not a continuous zoom. It's because it's being made
yeah, and I think that's actually what makes it look better to me. That's why it's surprising
like
to me that people have a problem with that, because I loved it.
Yeah. A lot of problems. Some reviewers actually said, the film is great, but the director, is using that kind of stuff. He should go to film school. So yeah, it was funny.
That's crazy to me. Speaking of kind of going back to Picnic at Hanging Rock, the location in this film plays a really big part.
Yeah.
Did you, when you were kind of looking at locations on the script level, did you know where you wanted to shoot it? Were you looking at something like Picnic at Hanging Rock for inspiration?
It's curious. I mean, I knew I wanted to make the movie in Tijuana, because Tijuana has these kind of stories about the devil popping up in different places, like appearing in nightclubs and very strange stories about basically the old Tijuana. Tijuana has changed a lot in the last 10 years of what is historically was, but I actually went to Tijuana just a couple of times before I shot the movie. I didn't know that many places, and I actually made up this story from the from the ideas that were really strong to me from Picnic at Hanging Rock and some other references. I made up all this story, and it was funny because when we went to make the scouting, uh, we went to one hill that was actually very difficult for a film crew to shoot there, but we went there for scouting. And when we were like at the middle of the scouting, like we were like very far from the top yet, and we found a really old man in the middle of the hill, and he told us, he pointed one cave. He didn't know what we were doing there, or what we were looking for, but he just pointed a cave that was on the top of the hill, and he told me that we should go to that cave because in that cave there was a demon. And I thought it was amazing that we actually found a place that matched like the story that we had, we already had on the script. So yeah, I mean, it was a long process looking for it, and we found this that was actually, to me, I like the location. But it was actually like a medium, a common ground, let's say, between production and what I intended, because it was actually a place where we could access with the cameras and everything relatively easily. And with the super tight schedule that we had, we couldn't afford to lose, just a couple of hours to access to a location. So it was a very, very crazy schedule. So we needed to be a bit realistic.
Yeah. So at this point in your filmography, you've pretty firmly planted yourself in horror territory.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned, you have a new one coming out already, werewolf film. Very excited for that. Do you see yourself breaking away into any other genres in the future?
I really hope not. I enjoy a lot horror. I like every genre. I can see everything. I enjoy, even, I don't know, romantic comedies, whatever you can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
I can enjoy it. I can enjoy watching it a lot. But to me, the idea of becoming a filmmaker has to do with being good at something. Like I think it's like any other job. Like you need to really be an expert on something specific. Like you can't say, I'm gonna be a doctor and today I'm gonna be a an oculist and tomorrow I'm gonna be I don't know, whatever it is. You can't jump from one specialty to another. I think that to be really good at something, you need to work on that ground, and that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to work in all these huge field that I think it's the horror genre. And actually, Here Comes the Devil was my first really big attempt to do a supernatural film. And I think that there's so many things that I still need to look at, to try. I never thought I was going to make a werewolf movie. For instance, it's something that always was like out of the themes and the things that I thought I was going to do. And then I found this script that I thought it was amazing and that had themes that were really appealing to me. And I just jumped on board to do it. So I that's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to keep finding things that are challenging inside the horror genre, but I'm planning to to stay on the genre.
Good. Well, I think that most horror fans will be happy to hear that.
Thank
you. Real quickly, any ideas of when we'll be expected to see this werewolf movie? Does it have a title?
Yeah, it's called Late Phases, and it's a film that is already shot, and we are very um, we we've worked a lot on the editing, and we're right now doing the little CG that we need, to blend some stuff, and sound design stuff like that. So I think we can expect to see it in the first half of next year, hopefully. So let's see what's the reaction. I mean, to me it's really exciting because it's a very different take on the werewolf genre.
Great. Well, we'll be looking forward to that. So
Thank
that you think that'll be like doing a festival run, I would assume?
Hopefully. I mean, we still don't have any confirmation, but I would hope to be on the first half of next year. On some festivals.
Great. Well, Adrian, thank you so much for taking some time to speak with me.
Thank you, Adam. Thanks a lot.
Thanks again, Adrian. Here Comes the Devil is set to hit theaters and on video on demand December 13th. All right, let's talk about some of what we've been watching. Kevin, we'll start it off with you. This week we're gonna do a little back and forth. So we're gonna switch it up and do a little like you do one and then I'll do one, and then we'll do it like that. See how that works. So you can go ahead and get it started.
All right. The first I saw was The Iceman.
Yeah, I saw this.
Which is the perfect Thanksgiving movie.
Yeah.
I saw this on Thanksgiving.
Just wait till you hear what I saw on Thanksgiving. But go ahead.
Okay. This tells the true story of Richard Kuklinski, who was, a big time hitman, killed like over 100 people. And I knew about Kuklinski's story. I think there was like some sort of, I can't remember what it was, if it was the History Channel or some channel had like a expose about him. And so when I heard this movie was coming out, I got all excited. Michael Shannon's going to play Kuklinski. Oh my God, it's going to be amazing. And it's not. It's just, it was a huge letdown. It just felt like everyone was just sleepwalking through this film. I mean, you've seen this film numerous times before.
Yeah, it's really average.
Yeah, I mean, and which is a shame because the original story is actually immensely engaging. Just to hear everything that this guy did, and they're trying to show him as like a loving husband, which doesn't come out at all. I mean, he's just cold, distant, and I'm not really seeing him as a loving husband at all. Says he's a devoted father. Again, not really getting that because he's really cold and distant.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's no complexity to his character at all, and then they try and add this like abused childhood thing, and there's an emotional exchange between his brothers that just seems crammed in like halfway through the film to really try and drive this point home. And it to me it just didn't work, and it's jumping all over the place. It's 64, and then he goes to 65, then it jumps the whole way to 74, and you're like, wait, what happened for 9 years? And they just seem to like fast forward through his everything, really.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, well, this isn't that great, but Michael Shannon's supposed to be amazing in this film, and he is. But at the same time, it's the Michael Shannon that I've seen in numerous other films. It's just now he has changing facial hair and a gun.
He's a lot like his character in Boardwalk Empire.
I mean, it's just, I've seen this Michael Shannon so many times that I wasn't impressed. I mean, it's still good. I'll give it to him. I respect him, but at the same time, I've seen you do it numerous times. I'm sorry. I'm just not that impressed this time around in The Iceman.
I thought it was like average. I remember when I saw this talking about it on the show, and I was just like, yeah, it was entertaining, but it was nothing more than just entertaining.
I know, it felt like a TV movie, really.
I liked Chris Evans' character in this.
Chris Evans was ridiculous in this. David Schwimmer in a ponytail and mustache. he was equally ridiculous. I liked him. Ray Liotta plays Surprise, a small-time thug.
Of course.
You've never seen that before. Winona Ryder looks completely different.
I think she looks good.
She does look good, but I was just like, that's Winona Ryder?
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know if it's just maybe because I haven't seen
you
her.
haven't seen her.
I haven't seen her in so long. But yeah, this was just completely average, average beyond belief. Manila folder almost.
Yeah, yeah. I saw Death Weekend on Thanksgiving. Now,
again, perfect Thanksgiving.
Now the reason that I picked this is like I was looking for my Grindhouse Weekly pick of, and I was like, okay, maybe I'll try to find something Thanksgiving themed. So I was like kind of looking online, and I saw a synopsis for this one, or it was a tagline or something, and it looked like it was about this couple that gets away for Thanksgiving, and then they get terrorized. So I was like, okay, I'll give this a shot. No mention of Thanksgiving at all in this movie that I can remember, at least, or that I picked up on. So there's really no connection to Thanksgiving. And what the movie really is just kind of it's like Straw Dogs. It's almost exactly like Straw Dogs. It's about,
I was gonna say, I read your article and it sounds exactly like Straw Dogs.
It's about this guy and this girl. He's a rich dentist. He's trying to woo this model, and he takes her to his lake house for the weekend. And on the way, there's this group of rednecks that come after them and break into the house. They kill him. They rape her, and then it turns into this rape revenge film where she comes back and murders all of them in various gruesome ways.
Okay.
The thing about the movie is it's well shot, it's well acted, but there's nothing original about this movie whatsoever. I mean, this is like by the numbers Straw Dogs, or even Deliverance, or just any of these. Or no, I Spit on Your Grave is the other one that I was trying to think of.
Yeah. So like any other rape revenge.
Exactly.
You've seen before.
Very, very similar to all of those. Apparently, in the mid-'70s, the rape revenge thing was like huge. I feel like that there was just so many of them that came out.
It was that and like psychopathic rednecks.
Yeah, psychopathic rednecks and rape revenge, big in the 70s. And the thing about the psychopathic rednecks is that the whole time I was thinking, like, how are these people like functioning members of society? Like, this is just one little snippet of their lives we're seeing. What do they do for the rest of the time? Do they just run around all day and all night just raping and killing everyone they see? And if so,
I know, like it like this snippet that you're seeing, is this what they would constitute as like a typical Tuesday?
Right. Like if this is how they live their lives, how are they not dead or in jail yet? I just don't understand.
People just ignore the psychopathic rednecks.
Either
just
way,
leave them alone. They won't bother you. They're like bees.
This was one of the first films that was produced by Ivan Reitman, who would go on to do things like Ghostbusters.
Oh, this is also directed by the guy that did Goosebumps, television series Goosebumps.
Yeah, there you go. So anyway, not really worth recommending. It's, like I said, it's not bad, but it's nothing that we haven't seen before. And Straw Dogs is way better, so just go see Straw Dogs.
There you go. I can definitely get behind that. And again, we have to do this. The original Straw Dogs.
Oh yeah, and I did.
The remake.
I did make sure to put that in the artitle that I'm referring to the original.
You got to be with me on that. Don't you hate that you have to do that now?
Yeah, absolutely.
With movies, it drives me crazy. I followed it up with This Is Martin Bonner, which is actually nominated for an Independent Spirit Award. This is a film by Chad Hartigan. It's his second film, little American indie, about a recently released ex-con who, through some sort of like Christian outreach program, he has like mentors. And just to let you know that this is an American indie film, one of those mentors is Robert Longstreet. So that way you know that it's a bona fide American indie. And the other guy that is his mentor is an Australian man. And the ex-con is played by Richard Arquette, which I don't know if that's another Arquette. it just seems like there's entirely too many Arquettes.
There's a lot of Arquettes.
And it's sort of just them, but like forging this unlikely bond because they're sort of going through the same thing. Arquette's character has been in prison for the last 12 years because of manslaughter, drunk driving charge, and his life is, completely wrecked. He's trying to re-enter society. He's trying to find a job. He's trying to reconnect with his daughter, who's now like mid-20s, hasn't seen her for 12 years, and the same is sort of going on with the Australian man, which I can't remember his name, the actor that played him. Sorry, but my internet's not working. But I think it's like Einhorn, which is funny. Um, and like their lives are sort of parallel because the Australian man's sort of going through the same thing. He had to move to Nevada, which is where the story takes place, from Maryland. It seems like he had his life completely together, working for a church. He was sort of like a financial advisor. He had two kids. Everything was going great, and then something happened. They never really tell you what happened, but everything sort of fell apart on him. He was declaring bankruptcy, got divorced. His son doesn't talk to him anymore. So they're sort of going through the same thing at the same time, and they're, trying to make a fresh start. And for an indie movie, especially an American indie movie, this was quite a surprise. It was very well made. There's not a lot to the story, but there's enough, and it feels very genuine, very earnest, very tender story, and they don't really get stuck in the same old indie stylings that you see camera-wise. And I think you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, of course.
Can you hit me with one?
The back of the head?
The back of the head. There's not much of that, I don't think. But they do have the indie line delivery where people say something and then they wait like 5 seconds and the other person says something. There's just all this waiting between their discussions, and it's like if you can get past that, that's the only hurdle really that's within this film. If you can get past that, I think you'll thoroughly enjoy This Is Martin Bonner. And I had some people, or I saw some people sort of complain about how it ended because it ends very abruptly. I mean, it doesn't really answer any questions, but I thought that it was actually pretty perfect given what the story was. You just sort of drift into their lives and then you drift out. There's really no closure to anything. I mean, you sort of get it a little bit, but there's really no conclusion to the whole ordeal. And it definitely a surprise from 2013, I have to say.
Interesting.
So I definitely recommend this, and it's actually Play Instant on Netflix.
I was actually gonna watch this last night, and then I watched something else instead that I'll get to, which was a huge mistake. But anyway, I saw Diamond on Vinyl, which is also an indie, little indie.
There you go. Do they have the back of the headshot?
Probably. I can't remember any specific ones, but I'm sure they do. Anyway, this is a really interesting story. It plays out like a thriller, like a psychological thriller, but there are no thrills in this. It's a very straightforward drama. Even though they like ramp up the suspense and you think that something's going to happen, like you can feel the tension building, but it doesn't go anywhere. And I think that that's kind of the point of it. But basically it's about this couple. They are recently engaged. They get a hotel room for a fun night of celebrating their recent engagement, some champagne, some sex. And then the next day, the girl wakes up and finds a digital recorder hidden underneath the bed and finds out that her fiancé was recording them having sex. And not only that, but she also finds that he rehearsed his proposal conversation with her. So not just like what he was going to say, but like the whole conversation. And it turns out that he is kind of obsessed with conversations, and almost every conversation he has, he kind of scripts out and rehearses before he engages in that conversation.
I have to say, doesn't everyone do that? Because I do that.
You might find this guy really relatable then, but
I might.
And he has these records called safe sounds or Safe and Sound or something like that came out in the 70s, where when people would go out, they would put these records on, and it'd be conversations between a husband and a wife, and it would make it sound like somebody was home,
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And
gotcha.
So he's like obsessed with these records. He's listening to them. He knows them by heart. And at any rate, the relationship goes on the rocks, and then this girl comes in, and she's played by Sanja Kinski, the granddaughter of Klaus Kinski.
Okay.
And she kind of injects herself into their lives. Like she becomes enamored with these two people and sort of falls in love with both of them in a way. And so she's trying to get closer to them and help them with their relationship. And it's a very odd film. And when I first saw it, I was kind of like, that was okay. I mean, it didn't really go anywhere. There wasn't, a whole lot going on in the plot. But the more I thought about it, the more I began to appreciate it. And I do have a full review for it up on the site. And I don't think it's a film for everyone. In fact, I think most people probably won't like this movie. But there was just something about it after sitting with it for a couple days that I was just like, Like, I really get that. Like, the development of the characters was done in such a way that I just really appreciated it. Like, there's all these kind of subtle things that they put into the film, and it was essentially about this guy who, like, he begins to learn that, okay, maybe my life shouldn't be rehearsed and planned out like this. Maybe I shouldn't be doing these things, and it was just really interesting. It was just like a really interesting character piece, and I quite liked it, actually.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in this.
I mean,
I never even heard anything about it.
Yeah, it's on demand. I think by the time this airs, it'll be on demand. Okay. And it's going to be in some select cities coming up sometime soon. I think maybe the 7th, like this Friday or something.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure what the release date's looking like for this, but yeah, it's an interesting watch. I enjoyed it.
I watched a Yugoslavian film from 1967.
That sounds fun.
From Dusan Mikajev, which he's actually slowly becoming one of my favorite directors. This is on Criterion. It's called Love Affair with a Case of the Missing Switchboard Operator. This is actually his second film that he's ever made. And this is part of, like, he was the preeminent figure of the Yugoslavian New Wave, which apparently in the 60s, everything was just slapped with the New Wave title. And so you got a lot of that, aesthetically speaking, with the camera work and everything, black and white, a lot of handheld, a lot of natural lighting, all those types of things. I mean, it looks exactly like a French New Wave film, but they're speaking Yugoslavian or Serbian or some language, I don't know. So it's got a lot of that feel to it, but what he adds to these films is he goes off on these tangents within his films. So he adds like little cinematic footnotes to what's going on in the actual story. So in the case of Love Affair, it's just a simple story of a switchboard operator named Isabella falling in love with a rat exterminator named Ahmed, and they start dating, they fall in love, they move in together, and it seems like they're having the greatest relationship ever. But what happens is they'll cut out, and he'll cut to, it sort of turns into this police procedural where they're fishing a dead body out of a well. And you're like, okay, what's going on here? And then there's like a criminologist talking to you, and it sort of turns into like a documentary. And he's telling you about, the motives that most murderers have and how they try and get away with it, and the things that police are trying to incorporate to make it easier to find out who the murderer is and all this stuff. And you're just like, okay, well, what's this have to do with anything? But then it cuts back to the love story. So you're going along, and then it'll cut back, and now they're doing the autopsy on the girl that they fished out of the well. And they're sort of bagging up her personal effects, and one of them is a necklace, and they put it in, they bag it up and everything, and then it immediately cuts back to the love story that you're seeing, and it's her fishing out the necklace from behind her lover's back while they're laying in bed. So like right off the bat, you're like, oh, okay, she at some point is going to die.
Hmm.
It's just a matter of who did it and why they did it.
Mm-hmm.
And just like, Ahmed's a rat exterminator. So he goes off on this tangent and he sort of gives you like a brief history of like gray rats invading Europe and what they did to try and, to fight against it, and the gray rat versus the brown rat and who won and all this stuff. And it's so unbelievably dense, but at the same time, this is only 68 minutes long. He's able to cram all this in an hour and 8 minutes. And it's quite remarkable the way that he's able to do it. He's just able to he just flips from one mode to the other, and you're just on board with everything. You're like, yeah, this is great. I see exactly where you're going with this.
I think I'm gonna have to see this.
Yeah, I would actually say, in the case of, because I've only seen the two films from him. I saw his first and his second. The first one being Man Is Not a Bird, and the second one, of course, being Love Affair. Man Is Not a Bird is a much better film. There's a lot more going on, and I think you probably enjoy that one more than this one. But I suggest both of them, actually, because I think he's a director that should be discussed a lot more. Because I mean, when you see it, the cinematography and everything, it's extremely familiar. You just automatically assume, oh, French New Wave. Okay, I got it. It's just, the guy didn't have any money, so he's doing exactly what the French New Wave did because they didn't have any money.
Right. I saw Alan Partridge, Alpha Papa.
Oh, yeah?
Loved it. It was... Now, have you ever seen Alan Partridge?
I've seen clips and such.
So you haven't seen any of, like...
No, not old, like full...
The old episodes or specials or any of that. Well, I've seen a few. I tried to... I think at one point... his first series, or maybe one of the series, was on Netflix, and I watched it. It's not there anymore, at any rate, but it was a long time ago that I did try to watch them, and I didn't finish. But I went ahead and saw Alan Partridge, Alpha Papa. It is absolutely hilarious. It's one of the funniest movies of the year, hands down.
Oh, I'm gonna have to see it.
I was laughing nonstop throughout this whole movie. No. Not nonstop. That's a stretch, but it is very Close. Very funny. Steve Coogan is amazing in this. Like almost, I mean, you and I have similar things that we like in comedies, like the little throwaway lines. Like that's like one of the things that we both like. And with this, like literally every line that comes out of his mouth is a ridiculous throwaway line.
Nice.
And it's one of those things where, like in certain movies, you remember the lines, like you remember specific throwaway lines. With this one, you'd probably have to watch it a few times because he says so many that you don't even know. But so basically the plot is that there was a takeover, a corporate takeover of Alan's radio station. He plays a DJ, if you're not familiar with the character. Very popular character in the UK, and there's a takeover. They let go of one of the DJs, played by Cole Meany, and he comes back with a gun and holds the place hostage, sort of like Airheads, but
Airheads, what's up?
But much funnier than Airheads.
Are you sure?
He agrees to only communicate with the police through Alan Partridge. And so Alan has to relay messages back and forth. And of course, as a result, it starts getting media coverage and news coverage. And Alan starts seeing himself on the news. And naturally, he lets it go to his head. And he kind of plays up the whole like hero negotiator thing. And it's ridiculous. It's goofy. It's silly, but it is very smartly written. And it is just absolutely hilarious. Cannot recommend it enough. Even if you don't know the character of Alan Partridge, there's certain things that happen in this movie that are kind of throwbacks to some of the other stuff that he did, but it's it's not a necessity to know like the whole story behind Alan Partridge. This can act as a standalone thing, and it's incredible.
All right, yeah, I want to see it badly now.
Yeah,
very badly. The other film I saw was Shoot the Piano Player, which is Truffaut's second film after The 400 Blows, which are the only two Truffauts I've ever seen. Oddly enough, even though I'm a big fan of the French New Wave. 400 Blows was meh. I'm gonna have to revisit that one, but Shoot the Piano Player was actually quite fun. It's sort of his stylings infused with like an American crime film from 1960, and it's just a lot of fun. I mean, I talked about it in the last film. Got everything here, all the French new wave film style. You know, the camera work, everything, handheld tracking, black and white, all that stuff. The jump cuts, the jazzy rhythm that these films have, everything. I mean, it's right up my alley. It was so much fun. It's just a guy that gets caught up with his brother's thuggery. And I mean, he used to be this big time concert pianist, and now he's just something happened in his life, and he's sort of starting fresh. So he's just working at a bar, just pounding away on the piano just to make a living, just to get by. And his brother runs into him and this is the thing that I loved about Shoot the Piano Player, is when you figure out what the entire story is. He gets caught up in this because of his two brothers and them double-crossing their gangster friends. But what you find out is that their gangster friends his brothers went straight. They were just working a regular job at a place. These two gangsters come in to rob the place, and the two brothers decide, hey, let's just join you. Let's rob the place that we work. We'll just walk out of here, split 4 ways, let's do it. So the guys that come in originally to rob the place are like, yeah, let's do that. That sounds good. And then later on down the road, the two brothers double-cross them, just ditch them, take the money, and they're gone. So these two gangsters are just like the dumbest people you've ever seen in your entire life, which is even more, that fact is driven home even more by every scene that involves the two gangsters. They're just bumbling idiots. They have ridiculous conversations with the people that they kidnap. They actually end up kidnapping the youngest brother, who's only like 13 years old, and they're just trying to impress him with all the stuff that they have, and the kid's not buying it, and it's just ridiculous. I mean, it's funny, it's, you know, a crime caper, it's got a little bit of everything. There's some dark elements to it, it's drama, it's got everything. It's just, I absolutely loved it. I think it's a fantastic film. Can't recommend it enough.
There you go. Shoot the Piano Player. The only other ones that I saw, I'm just gonna knock out these two because they're kind of related. I saw The Faculty. I rewatched The Faculty.
Oh my God! Yes, I forgot that movie existed.
Yeah. So I saw The Faculty and Slither, both on Netflix, and I kind of put them in the same category as like these sci-fi horror things. With bad CG. Like, the CG in both of these movies is terrible. Completely atrocious.
I do have to say, I forgot that Robert Rodriguez did The Faculty. I completely forgot that.
So, The Faculty, directed by Robert Rodriguez, features, like, Jordana Brewster from the Fast and Furious movies, Josh Hartnett, Salma Hayek, Famke Jensen, Piper Laurie, Christopher McDonald, Usher,
Robert Newirth.
Yeah, Robert Patrick, Jon Stewart, Elijah Wood. I
do remember Jon Stewart being in this and being absolutely terrible.
He was awful.
What happened to Josh Hartnett?
I don't know.
What happened to him? Like, what's he doing? Is he alive?
He's alive. I feel like I maybe saw something like an ad or.
He's one of those guys that, like, Hollywood was trying to cram down our throats, sort of like the Taylor Kitsch type deal, where they're like, we're going to put him in everything, you're going to love him. And you're like, please just stop.
Remember?
And then he just completely disappeared.
Like Devon Sawa.
Oh my God, Devon Sawa.
Wow. The last thing I remember Josh Hartnett being in was 30 Days a Night. And that was back in 2007.
Yeah. But there's actually an article called Whatever Happened to Josh Hartnett. Investigative reporting.
Yep. That sounds like a complete waste of time. Much like The Faculty, this was actually pretty bad. Didn't really hold up. Didn't hold up so well over time.
Uh-huh.
I mean, this is the movie that everybody always gets confused with Disturbing Behavior, because they both came out like right around the same time. They're both similar.
Yeah.
It's not very good. Like, it's unbelievable to me that Robert Rodriguez made this movie, because I mean, it doesn't really contain anything like what Robert Rodriguez has ever done. It just feels very cookie cutter and very Hollywood. Slither, on the other hand, I still really enjoy. I've been meaning to rewatch Slither for a long time, and just finally got around to it last night. And the CG is much worse than I remembered it being, but they still did use a lot of practical effects in that movie that looked really good, like really gross, and I still really like that movie a lot. Nathan Fillion is in it, and he's really funny. Jenna Fisher's in it. She plays a very small role. And it's probably one of the first movies I've ever seen Elizabeth Banks in. So
yeah, I'm gonna have to check this out.
Yeah, they're both on Netflix Instant. You know, if you grew up when we did, The Faculty's probably gonna bring back some nostalgia for you. So maybe it's, light recommend on that.
I just want to watch the scene with Jon Stewart.
Yeah, he's the science teacher.
Yeah, I just remember it being awful. Like, he's absolutely terrible.
He is terrible. Like, the creature bites him, and it's just really bad.
He's a terrible actor. I love him, but he's a terrible actor.
Yeah, I mean, is he even an actor? Like, I'd say he's just more of a comedian. It didn't work out for him.
Yeah, I'm glad that he stopped that whole experiment, so to say.
That's it.
That's all I got.
Okay.
I'm done too.
All right.
Boom.
All right, let's talk about Spike Lee's Oldboy. We have Ernie back on the show. Ernie, welcome.
Oh, thank you, sir.
All right, this is directed by Spike Lee, obviously. Stars Josh Brolin, Elizabeth Olsen, Samuel L. Jackson, Charlton Copley. The synopsis says, obsessed with vengeance, a man sets out to find why he was kidnapped and locked into solitary confinement for 20 years without reason. Now, of course, we've all seen the original many times over, I would assume.
Me, it was actually only been twice.
You only saw it twice? Kevin, how many times did you see the original?
2.5.
2.5? Okay.
It was Play Instant on Netflix a while ago, and I finally talked my wife into seeing it, so we loaded up and everything, and it was the dubbed version.
Yeah.
So like 10 minutes in, I was like, nope, we're not doing this. This is not going to be the first time that you see Oldboy. But I went back and actually watched it last night with fingers crossed that it wasn't the dub version, and it wasn't. It was the subtitled version, so I got...
Okay, so the subtitled version...
Pure Oldboy.
Because I did see it on the Netflix list, so the one that's on Netflix Instant now is the subtitled one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
yeah, I think that's the one I watched recently. So. Okay. I didn't realize they even put the English dub version on there.
Yeah, that's
I didn't know that they still did that. I thought that was something that we all agreed should never be done.
I don't think they do it very often anymore.
No, they never should, really, honestly. I mean, if you're not going to take the time to watch the subtitles, then you shouldn't deserve to watch the film in the first place.
The only exception to that rule, I would say, is the Studio Ghibli stuff, when they get actual, big name actors to do the voices.
Yeah, I mean, they put effort into it in that regard.
But that one is still, I would much rather watch the original language version. The Wind Rises was the original dub, so I don't know if I'd want to see the English language version. So
it depends on who they get for the voice. I've seen a lot of Studio Ghibli stuff dubbed and subtitled, and it doesn't detract from it for me.
It doesn't, but I don't know how this is going to come out, but hearing little Asian kids screaming just puts a huge smile on my face. Just that they have so much happiness that I'm just so jealous of.
Yeah, like My Neighbor Totoro, I would definitely.
Oh my god, they're just running around screaming.
I would definitely recommend the subtitled one. The new Blu-ray release of that has both. So.
Oh my god, I'm buying that thing right now.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Oldboy. So Ernie, you saw this a while ago now, and you have the review up on the site. So Kevin, I think I could probably guess where you're gonna go with this, but we'll start with you and get your thoughts. What did you think of Oldboy?
Oldboy, the American version, they reduced it to shit. They took out all the complexity of the original and just made it your standard American force feeding you just bullshit after bullshit. It's fucking terrible. I hated it.
I kind of thought that you would go that direction. Now,
I was actually very excited to go see this. I don't know why, but something happened. There was just so much Oldboy talk that I was like, I want to see Oldboy now. And then we actually found a theater around here. There was only one theater playing it. And I just lost my shit. And I was like, yes, we're going to see Oldboy. Because we were originally going to go see Dallas Buyers Club. And I just lost my shit. And I was like, I have to see Oldboy. And I wish I saw Dallas Buyers Club.
Did you happen to see the original before you saw the remake, or was it after?
I saw the original before. And then after I watched the American remake, I went back last night and watched the original. So I got both of them fresh.
Right. Yeah, I actually had the reverse where I saw the original 10 years ago. I thought it was great, never saw it again. Then saw the remake, and then didn't have time to watch the original again. So I watched the original the same night. So I had a flipped comparison. So.
Well, see, that's...
Well, no. That's actually what I did. Like, I saw this way back when, like, me and Adam first saw it in... probably 2003, right?
It was the same year it came out.
When it first came. Yeah. I saw it then, and then when I saw the American remake, and everything was just so ridiculous to me, like I was almost afraid to go back and watch the original because I was like, maybe I remembered it wrong. Maybe it is ridiculous. So I sat myself down last night and watched the original, and no, it wasn't ridiculous. It was so much well done compared to the American remake. I was like, okay, yeah, the Americans just fucked it up.
Well,
surprise.
I predicted that I would probably be sitting somewhere in the middle between the two of you, and I think that that's where I am. Like, I didn't necessarily like it, and I was really hoping that it was gonna be, it wasn't gonna feel unnecessary. Unfortunately, that's not the case. It feels completely unnecessary. Like,
yes,
this probably didn't have to be made. I was hoping that it was gonna be different enough that it was going to be something that I felt was new and maybe just more relevant than the original one that came out 10 years ago. Unfortunately, that was not the case. Maybe some of the technology that they use in it was a little bit more updated. There were certain things that I thought that I liked a little bit better in the remake, and we'll probably have to talk about that in spoilers, but there was just so much, like, one of the things that I was really excited for was the hammer scene, right? Like, that's one of the big culminating scenes in the original, and I knew it was going to be one of the big culminating scenes in this one, and it felt so tacked on to me. And I didn't understand. It felt like they just put it in there out of nowhere, because there's no transition. Like, it's just this random cut to him, like, in the hallway. It was almost like everything was set up and staged, and it felt just really weird. And the scene itself I thought was great. Like, it was well shot, and I liked that they did it all in one take and everything, and I thought that it looked really good, but it didn't feel right. Like, it didn't fit in.
For me, it was the American, and this is what I hate about remakes so much, is that now I have to say I like Oldboy, the Korean version, opposed to the American version. Like, I have to take extra time.
You have to,
now to explain which movie I like. I fucking hate that. But we're talking about the hammer scene. The American version felt like a video game, and it felt silly, really.
I kind of liked how they he expanded on that, because for me, after seeing Oldboy once and being so far removed from it, there were only three things I remembered were the corridor fight, the ending, and Minsick Choi's performance. But taking those away, like Oldboy was not fresh in my mind at any point. So I went, saw Spike Lee's version. I was like, yeah, I like that. And then I saw the original again. I'm like, yeah, a lot of things I don't like buy into right away now. My suspension of disbelief is not as easygoing as it was 10 years ago, 13 years ago.
Yeah.
In the original, I just loved like the exhaustion that was captured on the film, like in that corridor scene where they all get tired.
Yeah.
And he's down on the ground. He got stabbed in the back. They're kicking the shit out of him, and you're like, he's not gonna make it. He's not gonna make it. And then he gets back up, and the only thing, one of the big things that bothered me is I really wish that the American version had that chubby guy with the bum knee. If you remember that, I don't know if you remember that from the original. The guy just like a lot of apprehension, where he's like the only one that's going after the main character, and he's just like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And then it just resorts to them like throwing pieces of wood at him. And it was so amazing. Just the way that they soundtracked it, the way that the camera really didn't move at all. It just stayed static there. It was just leaps and bounds better than the American version, where the American version just seems silly and sort of like tongue in cheek, where he's like kicking him in the nuts and the guy's like, oh.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but I understand what you're saying. I do understand what you're saying, and I did like the original one, that fight in the original one better, of course. But
I don't know that, like, because I heard that, and I don't know how true this is because I didn't have a stopwatch, but they were saying that the American remake is like 3 times longer than the original.
Yeah, easily. I mean, I didn't. Without even using a stopwatch, I noticed that fight was shorter in the original.
Yeah,
that's weird. That's weird because when I was watching the original last night, I'm like, this feels just as long.
Oh.
I don't know if I was just like more invested into it, that I was just like, holy shit, this is amazing. Just the way that they soundtracked with the blaring classical music, and just how they all took a break at the same time. They're just like catching their breath.
Yeah.
There's so much more complexity in the original compared to the American version.
Now, Kevin, you're not a huge fan of Josh Brolin. You said that before on the show, and I like him quite a bit. But I was expecting a little bit more. I thought that he did a good job, but nowhere near the guy that played in the original Oldboy. Especially like towards the end, when there was just like that complete devastation and like emotional breakdown. Like I didn't quite buy into it as much with Brolin.
No.
But as far as performances,
that could also be Spike Lee.
It's
fault for not pushing him further than he decided to go.
Of course. I mean that could definitely. I
think a lot of fault lays on Spike
Lee. That's exactly what I was just about to say.
Sharlto, are you fucking kidding me? I mean, that performance was just one of the most ridiculous things I've seen this year, outside of Brad Pitt in 12 Years a Slave. That was atrocious.
It was definitely
I mean,
odd.
it felt like he was supposed to be in some like knockoff Bond film.
I think, one thing that I guess we could note is that I think that this movie is more based off of the manga than the other movie.
Maybe not, because I remember noting during the credits that it just said based on the original screenplay.
Oh, did it really? Okay.
And there was only a handful of elements that came out of the manga, which includes the I don't think it's much of a spoiler, but they visit Olsen and Brolin visit a character later on in the film that's actually from the manga.
Oh,
that was not in the original version.
I have the manga and I've read it. I don't remember specific things that happen. And I did...
I'm sorry, I've never read the manga, so could you please enlighten me? Who's the character that's in the manga but not in the original film?
Is it the teacher? Is that who you're referring to?
Yeah, the teacher, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I remember that wasn't in the original one either, the original film.
I was actually going to try and read the manga before I wanted to see this, and then I realized how many volumes there were. I'm like, never mind.
Yeah, I did read the whole thing, but I remember almost nothing at this point about it, so I can't say what the differences are. I guess one of the big things that I think we need to talk about is the ending, and I guess we will have to go into.
Oh, can we discuss something else right before we go into like the spoiler section? Because there's another part that doesn't spoil the movie that I want to talk about real quick, and that's the beginning. I mean, to me, like last night when I'm watching the original Oldboy, I'm like 30 minutes in, and I'm like, holy shit, they went through like an hour and a half of Spike Lee's material already, much better in 30 minutes. And one of the things that really bugged me with the original, or I'm not sorry, not the original, the American. See, this is what I hate about remakes, is the extended sequence of Josh Brolin being drunk. Are you like how long do I have to see this guy just stumbling around, yelling out and making guttural sounds and just fucking pissing and throwing up on himself? I'm like, I get it. He fucking drinks, all right?
He's a drinker.
Yeah, like, and that's what I'm talking about. That's the complexity that the original had, where it starts the film off, he's in, the police station, and he's drunk. But you don't really know, like, is he drunk like this all the time? Or is this just a one-time thing? What's going on here? But in the American remake, they just hammer you with him drinking. That's all you see, and you're like, I fucking get it. Okay, can we move on?
Well,
besides that, they also pretty much established that he really is an asshole. So unlike the original, so
exactly, the original is ambiguous. You don't really know if he's an asshole or not.
Right.
You're just sort of like thrown into this guy's life, and you're like, what's going on? Why was he? I mean, you're in the same mindset as him. Why is he in prison? What did he do?
Yeah, exactly.
The American remake, I didn't get that. I'm just like, this guy's a fucking dick.
Yeah, we know he did something. Well, that actually reminds me of another thing at the beginning of the film. I thought that there was so much overt exposition in the beginning of the film. Like when he's sitting at the desk at the office and he's like, like having the conversation with his ex-wife or whatever, and he's just, she's 3 years old. My daughter is 3 years old. And like, just all these like establishing things that they were setting up felt so obvious to me. And maybe that's just because of seeing the original and like I knew.
Very likely because I mentioned that there really aren't that many surprises in this one because if you've seen the original. So.
And I mean, that's another thing that sort of bothered me is like in the American, Josh Brolin, he's just an asshole to his wife. He's a fucking dick. Mm-hmm. And in the original, you have no idea what the relationship is. Like, you don't even know if they're really together. Are they together? Mm-hmm. Is he paying child support? Are they divorced? What's going on? There's no really any bad blood between them that the viewer actually sees, unlike the American version where you're like, okay, they're divorced. He's always late on child support. He's a drunk, and he's an asshole. All right.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that bothers me about American remakes is they force feed you all of this stuff. There's no, like, it's all heavy-handed all the time. I can't stand it.
Yeah, they make everything very, very surface level in these types of things. Ernie, is there anything else you want to add before we jump into spoilers?
Nope, let's just jump right into it.
Okay, so we are in a spoiler section now for Oldboy. We'll have the time code in the show notes, so if you haven't seen it yet, you can go ahead and skip over this part. The big thing is the ending, the changes they made with the ending. Kevin, what do you think about how they switched up the kind of the familial stuff with Sharlto Copley's character and how they did all that stuff?
Number one, Sharlto Copley gives the worst performance of the year. Second, the changes that they made are atrocious. And third, I loved the filming of the sequence where they're doing the flashback where the father's going around shooting everyone with a shotgun. I love the way that they filmed it. Now, what was sort of in that moment is what the fuck is their relationship? He walks into the daughter's room and she just immediately starts undressing. She's like, "Hey, Dad," and he kills her. And then he goes down to the son and he immediately starts taking his pants off. He's like, "Hey, Daddy," and I'm like, does he just fuck his children all the time?
Yeah. What? There's never a time where he's not having sex with his kids.
Like, they know everyone else is in the house. Do you not hear shotgun blasts?
Yeah, that's true.
There's not a silencer on the damn thing. So, and I mean, people are in the house. You know, people are in the house. So, did he just like roam around fucking everyone in his family?
Seems that way.
Well, yeah. That's one of the things I liked from the original. When I watched the original, the one thing that bothered me was the actor who played the Charlton counterpart seemed too young to be someone who was in the same class
he did.
as the other guy.
I would definitely agree with that.
That would always confuse me. I'm like, who is this guy? I'm like, oh, it was like, and then when I'm watching when he's laying it out, what his plan was, I'm like, but you look like you're only 30.
Yeah, that did seem kind of deceptive.
And I like the fact that with granted Copley was over the top in this one, that the character itself was, well, and the original, I believe it was just strictly that he was just in an incestual relationship with his sister.
Right.
And then his sister decided to kill herself for it. Mm-hmm. But it turns out that in this one, in the English language version, he is basically just as fucked up as Brolin is, that his entire freaking family is incestual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And whereas the other one is like, just like, okay, just get online, just gonna get revenge for my sister. But this one is like, yeah, I'm gonna make you fuck your daughter and then kill myself. So, like, he's more seedy and fucked up. So.
Yeah, and to me, like, I couldn't get they just added too much, like the whole TV show, the fake TV show. Mm-hmm. And where he takes them down and he shows them the sets and all the actors that he hired, and I'm just like, this is ridiculous.
Well,
I'm sorry, I can't buy into this. This is ridiculous.
Okay, so to that point, I will agree that it is kind of far-fetched, but you have to admit that in the original one, the way that he manipulated the father and the daughter to sleep together was also pretty far-fetched. I mean, with the subliminal messaging and the conditioning and, all that stuff.
Yeah, that's one of the things that kind of pulled me out. And it's like I barely remembered the whole post-hypnotic suggestion angle. And then when I saw it, I was like, yeah, I'm not buying into that so much now. That's why it had why I actually prefer not the end, but the very, very, very end of the remake to the original, because it all ties into that post-hypnotic thing. I'm like, yeah, I wasn't buying into that anymore. Like, so kind of like it took me out of it, but whereas this one is just more straightforward and wraps things up in a bow and sends you on your way.
Well, that's
nothing to think about.
That's the thing that I always have a problem with. I mean, yeah, when I saw the original and I'm seeing the post-hypnotic therapy and everything, I'm like, that's a little hard to buy into, but in all honesty, that's easier to buy into than a guy that has a TV studio in his basement where he has a cavalcade of actors on his payroll and he's making these ridiculous episodes for this TV show that doesn't even exist, and he pipes it into Josh Brolin, and I'm just like, this is I'm sorry, this is sort of ridiculous. I can't get into it.
Well, I think more than anything, the big problem I have with that is the fact that how would you inject that fake TV show into a normal station with the programming? Like, you'd have to switch inputs on the TV or something. You'd have to change the channel. Like, I feel like he would notice that the switch took place.
I think he established in some way that Brolin is being manipulated location to location. And, God, I mean, how else to explain that he somehow has a feed into their motel room?
Well, maybe.
Doesn't like thinking that.
But maybe everything he watches is pre-recorded.
Yeah, I think that is what it is. And even if they do like a transition, all they have to do is pump in the gas, knock them out, and then make the transition.
That's true. They could do it that way. Well, Either way, I also wanted to talk about the very, very end where he decides to voluntarily go back into the hotel and live out his days.
Oh, dude, fuck that.
I thought that was the most ridiculous thing.
Fuck that ending. That was the dumbest fucking thing I've ever seen. It ruins all the ambiguity, all the complexity of the goddamn story. Oh my god.
I just didn't understand. Like, okay, we're supposed to think that he's punishing himself for doing this and blah blah blah, but I'm sorry, I don't feel like he would do that to himself. I feel like if anything, he'd kill himself. You know? He wouldn't voluntarily go back into the place where he was stuck for 20 years. Like, if anything, he'd be...
Well, you just discovered you just screwed your own daughter. Maybe he would.
Yeah, but still, he wrote that. I mean, he wrote that letter to her, and...
Well, you do have to understand that this is something that I don't think anyone can put themselves into this position. Like, well, if I fucked my own daughter, this is what I would do. Like, I don't think anyone can go there. But I one of the main things that because I think Ernie did talk about it earlier, is like at the end of the original, Min Suk Choi does this like unbelievable breakdown.
Oh yeah.
Like it. I mean, he takes his performance to a whole nother level, and this film becomes something completely different through that breakdown in that final scene. And in the American remake, there's really nothing.
Yeah,
it's just sort of it ends.
I guess they figured there's no way they're going to be able to match that. My guess, because I was like, I think I put in my review. You got to be like Brando if you're going to pull something like that off.
Yeah.
I mean, just the way that he just breaks down into like an animal, and he's scurrying around like a dog, cuts out his tongue, like all this shit that he does, and you're just like, oh my god. Not even that. Even the guy's reaction to it. He's like, yeah, and I mean, you're just like, oh my god, he wrecked his entire life. This is the greatest revenge film I've ever seen.
Yeah,
he just reduced him to nothing.
Yeah,
and then in the American version, you're just like, oh, he walked back to the prison and gave diamonds and imprisoned himself. Well, okay,
yeah, which just wasn't nearly as powerful.
No, not at all.
I didn't.
And that's what, and I mean, and that's the thing. Like, and then you go further with the original, where he goes to the hypnotist, has himself hypnotized, and his daughter comes up, and they embrace, and then he has that like wide grin, and it's sort of left very ambiguous. Like, did it work? Did the hypnotism work? Is he going to try and make it through? And it plays into this running theme of like, you know, laugh and the world laughs with you, and you weep alone, and all those things this theme that they've strung through the entire original, and all of that is like completely gone in the American version.
Yeah,
I thought at least.
To me, it felt much more Hollywood than I expected. Just the overall look and tone of the American one. And I thought that just goes along with, like you were saying, like a lot of these themes that they just took out or, you know, subverted.
Yeah, and I mean, like the main character in the original, like the meaning of his name, and like the things that his daughter says while they're having sex, and when it's played back to him, it makes it so much more complex. There's so many layers to it that you're like, holy shit, he just fucked his entire life. I've never seen this happen to anyone ever. And then in the second one, it's just sort of like, yeah, you fucked your daughter.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, that's it. You know.
No, that's more of an American way to think.
Yeah.
It's like American shorthand, I guess, is basically how the Spike Lee Oldboy turns out to be.
There you go.
But I still
like that.
Well,
I still like.
Here's the thing. I think I liked it, but what I'm trying to do is imagine if the original Oldboy didn't exist. Try to imagine if that didn't exist, and you saw Spike Lee's Oldboy, and it was the only one that you've seen, and try to separate yourself from the original. Would you like it more?
Yeah.
Would you think it was a better movie? And I think that I would. I'd probably be really into it.
It's basically because it's fresh. You've never seen a story and level of vengeance to that degree in a movie, let alone flat out having an incest angle as the main screw in the entire feature.
Right, exactly.
Pun intended. So, but I was like thinking that is like if this is the version that if you never heard of, never seen the original, and never happened, then you would probably say this is a fantastic film. Yeah, and then someone will do a remake of it. So.
I mean, there's a part of me that agrees. There's another part of me that I always find that very difficult to just try and.
I think it's hard. Yeah,
imagine that something doesn't exist, but I think that what plays into the original Oldboy being so powerful is that it was this revenge film that had some Hollywood aspects into it, but not, overriding the depth that the original had, and just the type of story that you've never seen before in your entire life, and it just floored you when you saw it back in 2003. You were just like, holy shit, are you kidding me? Korea, good on you.
Yeah.
This is unbelievable. And one of the big things that struck me watching the original after watching the American remake is the original is not really that violent at all.
No.
They don't show almost any of the violence that they do in the American remake, which sort of makes the American violence just like them pandering to the American audience, like, hey, you're gonna love this.
It's dark.
You didn't get to see it in the Korean version, but we're gonna give it to you full on.
Well, but I think that the Korean version is violent. It's like they intensified the moments that are violent, and then it's like they focus them on these specific parts, like the tongue cutting scene.
Yeah, and there's one that's great because the tongue cutting scene, they don't really actually show him cutting his tongue.
No, but it's still.
Yeah. I know, it's implied. It's implied, and that's what I'm talking about, the complexity that's there. Because take like when he comes in and hits the guy that's at the desk with the hammer. In the Korean version, he's just holding it, and they freeze on that frame for I don't know how long, and they just do a dotted line to the guy's head, and then that's it.
God, I love that.
They never show him. Yeah, they never show him actually like clubbing it into his head, nothing like that. And then in the American version, of course, Brolin slams it into his head. The guy screams, and of course it gets stuck, and he has to like rip it out. And it's just like, less is more, guys. Less is more.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
Well, not when you're getting to an American audience that wants more and more and more.
I know. I think my problem is more with the American audience and not, the directors that are catering to that audience.
Yeah, I mean,
that surprised me. That surprised me when I saw the original after I saw the remake.
I know. See, that's what I'm talking about.
So it's like.
And I loved the whole where he takes out 15 teeth to represent him aging 1 year for each tooth instead of the American version did, where it was just really gruesome, and you're just like, damn, that's over the top, man. Chill out. And another thing is that the original, Dae-Soo, his relationship with his daughter is much more complex. Like, he starts to trust her, and then he doesn't trust her at all, and there's actually a point where he's going to kill her. And in the original, he just buys into Elizabeth Olsen like right off the bat. And the only thing that he does is just... Yeah, see? Fuck you, Spike Lee. God damn it. But we should say that it could have been worse. Wasn't it supposed to be like Will Smith?
It was, yeah.
At the beginning, with like Spielberg?
Spielberg and Will Smith, yeah.
Imagine
Spielberg
that.
said, Proto Savage said that Spielberg was going to keep it real, keep it dark, keep the original ending.
That's what he said.
Yeah, so.
I don't know.
Could you imagine us sitting here right now talking about Spielberg versus Chan-wook Park?
And freaking Will Smith. I mean, come on now. Will Smith in that role?
My goodness.
I can't see Will Smith go to her band. I can't see him pushing it that far.
I don't
even know if there's any American actors I can think of right away who can actually push it as far as he did.
Yeah, that's another. Yeah, me and my wife were talking about that. I was really struggling to try and find, and even though I thought Josh Brolin was like the bright point in Oldboy, I was trying to think of like an American actor that could really pull that off, and I was struggling to find one.
I think that Brolin was really cast well in that role. And same with Elizabeth Olsen. I thought that she did a really solid job. And there's two people from Sopranos in this. The TV show host, the guy from Doogie Howser.
Yes.
and the other, what's his name? Is it Michael Imperioli?
Yeah.
The friend at the
bartender. The bartender friend.
Yeah. And I liked him too.
I was bummed out that no one ate an octopus.
They showed the octopus.
I know they did, and I thought that was a cop-out. I mean, you're going to put all that violence in, you're not going to eat an octopus?
You can blame Mark Portasevich, the screenwriter, for that.
And they did the tongue, the nod to the tongue thing as well by cutting out Imperioli's tongue and sending it to him. Were there any other little winks and nods to the original that you guys picked up on?
I like the original's use of how they didn't really show that there were encyclopedias in the room, but you could tell that there was because he had this vast knowledge of everything. And with the American version, they were encyclopedias, and all he used them for was lifting weights, and he had no knowledge whatsoever, which I thought was like a tongue-in-cheek, like, America, you're stupid.
That's really funny, actually.
It's an alternative to knowledge is power.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I did love that the American remake didn't rely so heavily on voiceover like the original did.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't do any of the split screens that the original did.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And one of the things that I thought was much, much better in the American remake was the title design. I thought was the best I've seen this year. I thought that was amazing with the red background, the letters coming on, and it's counting down the years. I thought that was, sadly, that was the high point for me. Where I was like, the title design is amazing.
I liked.
So you got hooked right away, and then just went downhill for you.
Yeah, it all went downhill.
I did like the scene in the opening when he first gets out, and then he has that altercation with the football players, and he just, I mean, it was so over the top, like.
Yes.
Like, man, you went a little bit too far with these guys. Which I think is funny because, like, in the original one, they were like hoodlums, right?
They were thugs.
Yeah,
he wanted a cigarette.
And I'm wondering why they made the decision to make them football players in this one.
I don't know.
Probably the show that these guys are big, young studs going up against this old dude.
Man, he fucked them up.
I do love the voiceover in the original where he's like, can 15 years of make-believe training really work out? And then they show like what he did to everyone. He's like, apparently it does.
Yeah. And the one guy calls him a dick shit. I remember that.
Yeah, and he's like, I've never heard of that word before. There's a lot more comedic elements to the original.
Yeah, that is one thing.
Give you a little levity. And I did like the nod in the American remake with the overhead shooting that was incorporated in the original.
Yeah.
I did enjoy that.
Okay. Any other spoilers before we get out of this?
Nope.
Kevin, any spoilers that you want to cover? Other spoilers?
I wish that there was more surrealism compared to the original.
Yeah, the only bit that they didn't do the ants and stuff. Which
they didn't do the ants. They didn't have that weird ass painting that was in his room.
Yeah,
do you remember the painning?
Well, they did have the painting, and then of the weird bellhop. I don't know if that was supposed to be some sort of like, social commentary or something.
Yeah,
but the ants made more sense because they said that when you. What was it when you're in isolation for so long?
When you're lonely, you start to imagine ants because ants move in groups.
Yeah.
So you're sort of striving for that, that group-like feeling. And
maybe they switched that up with the rats.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe. That could be. It makes more sense in the American version, with Spike Lee being from New York and everything. So
could be.
Maybe they went the rat route.
Could be.
That makes sense. There was one thing that I thought, and this was very bizarre, and I know that I'm digging deep here, but watching the original, at the end where they do, the reveal and everything, and the villain is sort of like saying, you just forgot because it wasn't important to you. you know, that's the reason that you didn't remember what you did to me and why I'm seeking vengeance on you and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that that was slightly just the way that I saw these films, where, I'm watching the remake version, the American version, and I'm like, man, was it like this? And then I'm sort of struck by that, where it's like, I just forgot, because even though I thought that I loved the original, apparently it wasn't that important to me because I missed all this complexity and depth and everything that was completely missing in the first one. And I actually had to go back and watch the original to see if I was right.
Mm.
Yeah,
which I thought was,
I forgot so much of the movie.
Yeah, which I thought was really poignant, because the fact that when we first saw this, I thought it was like, it blew my mind. It absolutely floored me, and I know that it did to you too, Adam. Oh, yeah. I mean, we were like, this is the greatest revenge film I've ever seen in my entire life. And then here I am 10 years later, and I'm watching the American remake, and I'm like, yeah, I don't really remember much from the Korean version. That's sad.
So you'd say that now, since you rewatched the Korean version, you have a newfound appreciation for it. You picked up on things that you didn't.
Yes, much so than the first time that I watched it back in 2003. I was like 19 when we first saw it, 18.
Yeah.
So I don't even know how old I am, but yeah, there's so much complexity in the screenplay, and the whole less is more. The way that they keep out so much, and they don't really give you any answers to what's going on.
Yeah.
It's just much better than the American, where they just, like I said, they force feed you everything.
They really make you try to figure it out for yourself in the original, but I don't know. Again, that could be just because we all saw the original, and I would like to talk to someone who didn't see the original, or maybe saw the new one first, then saw the original.
And
go ahead.
They're taking an interesting marketing campaign prior to the official critics reviews coming out. I was like, who are these quotes coming from? If you've seen the TV spots and whatnot and ads in the newspaper, and they're actually taking quotes from people who tweeted about the remake.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
So there's like who is this? Is like at I'm like, oh, those are tweets. Huh. So these people have never seen the original, so it's like, okay, I guess so.
Now, to sort of to follow up on that, is like, my wife hasn't seen the original yet, and I'm really scared that she doesn't want to see it now because she did not like the American version, and she's actually a big Spike Lee fan, and she didn't like it at all. And I'm like, damn it, you're not going to see the Korean version because you hated the American version, and it's not like that. I'm like trying to
explain to
talk
her.
I'm trying to talk her into it. Like, it's nothing like the American version. Please watch
maybe
it.
Maybe now you have no choice but to watch the English dub version, because she may not be willing to commit the time to read subtitles.
No, she'll read this. Yeah, she enjoys foreign films much more. I mean, she's in the same boat as me. I can't stand Hollywood. Hollywood bothers me so much.
All right, so what you need to do is get her to watch the original, and then come back and let us know what she thought of it, because that could be the case study right there.
Hey, I'm gonna try. I tried to talk her into it last night, but she chose instead to watch Valhalla Rising. Ugh. Which she fucking hated.
Me too. I hated that too.
It was just her interrupting me watching the original Oldboy to tell me how much Nicholas fucking sash belt sucks.
Yeah, I did not like that. But anyway, all right, let's wrap this up. Final thoughts on Oldboy. Ernie, you gave it was it a 7.5?
7.5.
7.5 out of 10. I'm gonna give it we'll say 5.5. I'll go 5.5.
5.5.
Yeah.
I'm going to go 4.
Go with the 4? Okay, there you go.
I'm going with a 4.
I mean, obviously, I think it goes without saying, if you haven't seen the original Oldboy, watch it now. It's on Netflix Instant. And then if you really want to know, what the differences are and just see the American take on it, go check it out. I would say go see it soon if you haven't already, because it's in somewhat of a limited release right now, and I have a feeling that it's not going to be in theaters very long. Because my screening, there was literally one other person in the theater.
Yeah, my screening My screening had 3 people in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was playing on 500 something screens and only did 1.25 million for the 5 day.
Yeah, so it's not doing so good. Actually,
but it's clearly not the most ideal Thanksgiving movie to see.
But that's true.
No.
I'm like, this should have been hell for the dumping ground, like January, February, where
right
stuff like that is more easily accessible. More people are willing to go see it. But not at Thanksgiving, Christmas. Like,
no.
Well,
let's go see a movie about incest.
Here's the thing. Like, this reminds me of a conversation I had with my girlfriend after we saw it yesterday. Who's the target audience for this movie? Like, who are they targeting this towards? Is it for people that saw the original? You know, like movie lovers that saw the original? Because that's not going to work. Is it for action fans? Because there's not a whole lot of action. It's kind of an obscure title. Like,
yeah, and it's actually a lot slower moving than the original. Like, they spend entirely too much time before he's actually in prison. His imprisonment is like 3 times the length of the original.
So like, who are they marketing this towards? I mean,
I don't really. And I mean, when you're doing a remake of a film that is like a cult classic type deal, you're already going to get those people suckered in. I mean, I was talking for weeks how I thought this is stupid bullshit, and I would never see this because I'm totally against remakes. And then there I was, fucking Friday night, on my way to go see Oldboy, just because I got sucked into it because I wanted to see, oh, how's it different from the original? Just curiosity.
Yeah.
And I'm just really pissed off that I gave my money to it.
I'm not.
I'm a hypocrite.
I'm not necessarily pissed off. I think that it just didn't. I wasn't that into it. But the thing is, I went into it not liking it. Like, I went into it thinking, like, how dare they? How dare they? You know?
Who do you think you are?
I think I somehow managed to avoid those thoughts going in when I went to see it.
I tried.
It's like, okay, because I know it's a remake. I know I like the original, but again, I still haven't revisited it yet. So I was like, okay, let's see what they do. And it's like, okay, I'm watching the movie. I'm like, oh, I remember that. I remember that. I remember that. I don't like. And then when I got the point of comparison, I'm like, oh, that was different.
Yeah.
But
oh well.
But that's hard to do. I was amazed that even I could do it. It would be like saying, it's like, okay, I wouldn't be able to separate myself if they were like saying, okay, we're gonna remake E.T.
Right.
Like, yeah, I wouldn't be able to do that. It's so etched in my brain that's almost impossible.
And that's the other thing. Like, the entire time I was watching the new one, I was just comparing it in my head to the original. Like, the entire time I'm watching it, I'm like, okay, well, that's different. Okay, well, I remember that part.
In fact, I actually forgot the whole octopus eating scene. And when the octopus scene comes up where he looks at the octopus in the remake, I'm like, what was that all about? And then it's like, I can't believe I completely forgot about that.
Yeah. Oh well.
I remembered the octopus eating scene, but I didn't really remember how it played out. So when I was watching the original and they show it, I'm just like, oh, that's right. He ate a live octopus. And they did that like 4 times. And you had to eat 4 live octopus.
And I think he's
octopi.
Sorry.
Yeah. I think he's an actual Buddhist or something to that effect, or some religion where they really don't want to harm animals.
Yeah.
And he had to sit there and eat one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Chan-wook Park definitely pushed him a lot more than it seems like Spike Lee pushed Josh Brolin. I almost feel like Spike Lee wasn't invested in this at all.
I don't think Spike Lee's invested in anything, honestly, anymore.
and that's like that was one of the sad things for me is like I like Spike Lee
I do too.
a lot. And I was like, I hope that this works out for him and maybe gets him some more, funding for his next films. And I was just like, this just feels like a knockoff. Like, there's nothing here that makes me think Spike Lee. Yeah, this was Spike Lee.
Yeah, I agree. It didn't really contain his voice at all. Like, if you didn't know that it was directed by Spike Lee going into it, you wouldn't know. Like, you wouldn't be like...
No, you wouldn't.
Whereas if it's his previous movies, you're just like, okay, yeah, this is definitely a Spike Lee movie.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
There's like a grittiness to it, but that was completely missing in Oldboy.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I thought he was gonna make it gritty.
And in the title, it didn't even say a Spike Lee joint. It said a Spike Lee film. What's that all about?
What's that? Yeah, what is that?
Come right off the bat, I was like, wait a minute.
Selling out.
Doesn't feel right here.
Selling out. Oh my god.
All right, well, I think that'll wrap that up. Ernie, thank you so much for taking some time to talk with us.
No problem.
Let's talk about some predictions. First up, we have Frozen. I said 85, you said 81, actual 84 on Disney's Frozen.
Disney's Frozen?
Oldboy, I said 76, you said 72, actual 42.
Yeah.
Ouch. Homefront, I said 40, you said 42, actual 35. And finally, Mandela, Long Walk to Freedom, I said 79, you said 54, actual 62.
I'm surprised that was a lot higher than I thought it would be. It's a lot higher than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
I thought it just, I don't know.
You never know with movies like that.
Just like the soundtrack to that, ugh.
If that was just in the trailer, though, maybe the actual score of the film was different.
Oh, God.
All right, next week we have Out of the Furnace. What are you thinking on this one? I'm pretty excited for this one.
I'm slightly excited. I'm sort of getting tired of the backwoods.
I'm not.
I'll
never get tired of it.
I'm getting tired of it, man. I'm going to say like a 74.
I'm going to say 80. I think it's...
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping that it's going to be good. And we have Inside Llewyn Davis. Also very excited for this one. I'm going to say 89.
I'm going to say 92. And I'm really pissed off. You know how we're members and you always get those emails? And did you get the email where we're invited to all these screenings for this movie?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, God, I hate that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's like, are you guys showing in Mount Joy?
Mountford, Pennsylvania. Attend a screening there. In limited release, we have Last Days on Mars, which is that science fiction one with Liv Schreiber. That's currently playing on demand right now. Not supposed to be that good. Haven't heard good things.
Yeah, just forget about this.
Kumba? Animated film.
Kumba?
It's about zoo animals.
Oh, I like what I'm hearing.
Doesn't look very good.
How do you spell that?
Khumba.
Khumba. Kumba.
Yeah, it doesn't look very good.
It looks like a whatchamacallit ripoff.
It looks like a Madagascar ripoff.
Yes, exactly.
We also have Crave, which I don't know too much about. And finally we have Lenny Cook, the documentary.
I think that's actually supposed to be pretty good.
Yeah, it looks interesting. Like, it doesn't appeal to me, really, because it seems like, I don't know, it seems pretty sad. But
it's the Safdie brothers. I enjoy their work. Yeah, I'm going to definitely check this out.
Lenny Cook?
Yeah, I like it. I like me some basketball.
Yeah, I know. It's about, he was like, he was supposed to be like a really...
he was supposed to be like one of the...
Yeah, like he was supposed to be really good and he was really promising career, and then he like screwed it all up by getting into like drugs and stuff, right?
I don't know if he actually got into drugs. I don't really remember his story. I remember watching, I think it was like an ESPN Expo or something like that. Expose.
30 for 30.
I think it was like before they had their 30 for 30 documentary series. It's just like some special on Sports Center or something.
Those 30 for 30s are fantastic.
Oh, they're amazing. I love them.
They're so good.
Yeah.
Did you see the 30 for 30 for Space Jam?
No, I did not. I keep forgetting that I want to watch that.
Oh, that's amazing. All right. Video on demand next week. We have Kumba. We have Crave. We have Bet Raise Fold, which is actually playing right now. That just came out today. And we have a review for that up. And Diamond on Vinyl, which we also have a review for that up.
I'm sure we talked about it earlier, but I want to see that. I'm
Diamond
interested.
on Vinyl?
Yes, from your review, I'm interested.
DVD and Blu-ray releases, we have The Wolverine, which I'm actually going to buy. I don't buy too many Blu-rays these days, but I'm gonna pick up the Wolverine just because I want to see that extended R-rated cut.
Oh,
yeah, that has me very interested. All the Boys Love Mandy Lane. Keep going back to that one.
Jesus. That's gonna be in our lives forever.
Did you ever notice how there's certain movies that I feel that we talk about them almost every week?
Mm-hmm. That's definitely one of them.
It's just we just keep coming back to that.
Jeez.
Smurfs 2. I know you're excited for that one. Joe Swanberg's Drinking Buddies, which
I recommend that one.
Recommend that one definitely. Mortal Instruments, City of Bones.
Oh shit! Are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's
like the most ridiculous movie I've never seen.
Well, I heard that because you know how I was like rallying against the How I Live Now, that the two lovers are cousins. They're like first cousins. Well, turns out in Mortal Instruments, City of Bones, the two lovers are brother and sister.
Are you what? What is going on with incest?
But apparently they don't actually have sex in it, like in How I Live Now. Apparently they just kiss. It's like a Luke and Leia type thing.
What the hell?
Like they don't know
it. Oh, they
They don't know.
Oh, okay.
So still, How I Live Now is still worse.
Okay, gotcha.
I
want to mention something real quick because I remember how horrible the trailer for Mortal Instruments was, and how I thought it was the most ridiculous film I've ever seen that I won't actually see. And it got topped this weekend, which was I saw the trailer for I, Frankenstein.
Dear God. Isn't that horrible?
What the hell is this new obsession with bringing back like these old literary characters and like putting them in the real world? Like there's that Sleepy Hollow TV show that looks absolutely god-awful. Yeah, well, like what is up with this obsession? Can we stop, please? Just stop it. I'm begging you.
I don't know, but I, Frankenstein looks atrocious.
I just was sitting there with my jaw on the floor like, are you kidding me? This is what... No wonder the studios have no fucking money.
Could be the closest thing to a Gargoyles movie you're going to get, though.
That's what I thought it was at first. When the guy flew in, I was like, oh shit, did they steal my idea?
Any Criterions coming out?
We have two. We have one Robert Altman film from 1975, Nashville, is getting the Criterion treatment, and a Italian film from 1970 called Investigation of a Citizen Above Suspicion by Elio Petri, which it sounds
interesting.
Yeah, it does. Kafkaesque tale, police, heinous crime that he committed. What?
Speaking of Altman, did you see Mud got the Robert Altman Award at this year's Independent Spirit Awards?
I did see that.
What do you think about that?
Nah. Just whatever. The awards are so fucking stupid.
I like the Independent Spirit Awards, and
they're the best.
I think that they're the best.
They're slowly moving into that territory.
They are.
Where you're like,
that's what I was just going to say.
Care anymore. You're just Golden Globes light now.
When 12 Years a Slave gets nominated for like 7 awards, like I don't know.
Yeah, it bothers me.
That I don't know. But there were a couple on that list that I was pleased with, like Blue Caprice getting nominated for best first feature, and Fruitvale Station got quite a few awards. I think that was best first feature, and I think that it also got nominated. What's his name? Michael B. Jordan got nominated, and
I still haven't seen that. I want to see that movie.
It's great. I mean, it's heart wrenching, but it's
great. It just, I mean, much like what you said, just so many of these nominations are going to films where I'm like,
it's not really independent. Like, I'm sorry, but I don't really consider 12 Years a Slave to be an independent film.
I mean, maybe technically, I don't know.
But I don't even know. Is it technically? Like, was it independently financed? Did Steve McQueen finance that film?
You know, he got a lot of financing from Brad Pitt, and I'm sure some other people. But then again, I always feel slightly stupid like out of my depth here because I'm not really into the business side of the industry because I really don't give two shits.
Sometimes I pay attention to that. Like sometimes I'll actually research that on how they finance the film, but in a lot of cases I don't care too much. Like I'll look at box office numbers and I'll look at the budget of a film, but that's pretty much as far as it'll go. Like there's certain movies that that have like an interesting story behind the financing, and
yeah,
with things like that I'm kind of interested, but I'm always interested for movies that get funded like through Kickstarter and stuff, just to see how that turns out.
There's a couple of things that I was happy with. I love their first feature category. I love that. I think that's a great idea, to recognize someone for their first film. I think that's one of my favorites, plus the Cassavetes Award.
Yeah.
I love that award.
This year I saw a lot of the nominees. I remember last year there were quite a number that I didn't see.
I'm in the midst of trying to find them right now.
Because I remember last year there was like maybe 20 that I didn't see, but this year there's not that many. We have All Is Lost that got nominated for quite a number of awards.
Which makes sense because I think he's actually a member.
Nebraska got nominated for quite a few. Inside Llewyn Davis. I always want to say Llewellyn, and I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one that wants to say Llewellyn.
I can tell you right now that that's what I say every time.
Blue Jasmine got nominated for a few. Julie Delpy, Ethan Hawke, and Richard Linklater got nominated for Best Screenplay for Before Midnight.
I was happy to see Carruth for director.
Mm-hmm. That also got nominated for Best Feature.
Enjoyed that.
No, it didn't. Sorry. Take that back.
Unbelievable. Come on.
It did get nominated for more than one, though. Upstream Color got nominated for more than one. I'm not seeing it. I did see that Computer Chess got nominated for the Cassavetes Award.
Yes, I did see that.
Was Computer Chess, Crystal Fairy, Museum Hours, Pit Stop, and This Is Martin Bonner.
Museum Hours I desperately want to see.
That isn't... I think that might come out this week, or maybe it's on video on demand.
I think it's actually out right now.
Yeah.
But me having Netflix, they do that thing where it's like, hey, we know it's out, but we're going to wait 3 weeks until you can have it. And I'm like, thanks, Netflix. Here's more of my money.
Here you go. Just take it.
I love our relationship. It's great. I actually enjoyed This Is Martin Bonner a lot. It was a surprising, enjoyable film. I want to like Computer Chess, and then I just remember how unbelievably fucking boring it was. Like, I love all the ideas behind it. It didn't work for me. It didn't work for me. I'm sorry.
The thing that I like the most about Computer Chess is how it was filmed, and the cinematographer Matthias Grunsky did get nominated for Best Cinematography. I just loved the look of it. I thought that it looked like spot on for the time period.
Yeah. Oh yeah. What's first feature? That's what I wanted to see. Who's in here for first feature?
First feature is
okay, Blue Caprice, Concussion,
yeah,
Kill Station, Una Noche, which I still want to see, and Wajda.
Yeah, I have to see Concussion, Una Noche, and Wajda. But I don't know. With Wajda, it makes me wonder if that's getting so much recognition just because of how it was made, and that it was the first, woman-directed film.
Yeah, I mean, there's a part of me that hopes that it isn't for that reason.
Well, absolutely.
There's another part of me that thinks that even if it is for that reason, it's good. To get some recognition, maybe get that film industry kick-started.
Yeah, hearing stories about how she would have to direct the film, like, from a van, like, it's just crazy. So I do want to see that, but... All right. Any other closing thoughts before we end off here?
Pretty solid year for independent films. It's a lot of shit, but there's a lot of good gems in there.
I remember last year I was kind of struggling with my top 10. This year I think that it's going to be much easier to make my top 10.
My top 10 is bursting at the seams right now.
Yeah, like
I have a lot of difficult decisions to make.
Same here. Whereas last year I was actually struggling to find 10 that I felt worthy. This year I'm probably going to have like 20 at least to start with, and then I'll have to weed it down. But all right, well, I think that'll wrap it up. For all the latest film news and reviews, visit us at filmpulse.net. Send us an email at feedback@filmpulse.net. Follow us on Twitter at filmpulsenet. And be sure to rate us on iTunes. We appreciate that very much. For filmpulse.net, my name is Adam.
And I'm Kevin.
And we'll see you on Thursday for Ryan Watches a Movie.
Now my computer's frozen. Damn it.
We'll wait.